Hey y'all, it's me again. I'm gonna be reading from my book again, the 1900s. Sorry, I didn't post last week. It's just that if you couldn't tell, I have a cold, and I know that it's a cold because I took a COVID and flu test at home, and both came back negative on Friday. No, Saturday. Yeah. And so now I got my voice back after it being gone for some time, sort of. So here I am reading, yay! Okay, here we go. The Washington, D.C. of the African American. Critics are forever trying to wedge Paul into some tidy cultural niche, but he would have none of it. He defined himself as a cultural hybrid, a black man, an American, and a writer. Others might be confused about his identity, but Dunbar was not. On a scrap of paper found after his death he had written, "It is one of the peculiar phases of Anglo-Saxon conceit to refuse to believe that every black man does not want to be white." In Washington, the Dunbars lived primarily within a large and congenial black community. Looking at photo stories of his city that year, one would assume the capital was an all-white town, except of course for the inevitable doorman, coachman, and the black woman with a basket on her head. But there were 90,000 African Americans living in Washington by 1900, and a large and prosperous middle class. Black men and women were working for all the government agencies. Paul had worked as an assistant in the Library of Congress when he first came to town. In an essay published in Harper's Weekly in January, he had written about the post-war generation of dark-skinned doctors and lawyers and members of the Board of Trade and Government clerks smoking as good a cigar as an Eastern congressman. There were good schools and social clubs, churches, and Howard University, and a gossipy black paper called the Washington Bee. But for black Americans, the capital was also a city of unmet promises of dismissal back alley tourists never saw, jammed with the poor, the failed, and the damaged. Southern rural people ill fit for city life. The crime rate was up, the jails overfilled, and racial snubs, rudeness, and condescension were as much a part of the black experience here as anywhere else. Dunbar didn't mention it. He didn't have to. It was such a part of daily life. Taking it all in all, he wrote. Negro life in Washington is a promise rather than a fulfillment. Those Americans, like Paul's parents who had emerged from slavery with such a profound sense of hope, found themselves and their children trapped in a hostile and ever-narrowing world. In 35 years since emancipation, there has been progress, to be sure. 60% of black children are now in school, 20% of black Americans own their own homes, and there are 5,000 businessmen, grocers, barbers, plumbers, and real estate men. The colored barrier still stands. Dunbar's old friend W.E.B. Du Bois, now professor of sociology at Atlanta University, was producing the first extended analysis of African American life, and his findings were not reassuring. Of the 9 million black people in the country, Du Bois wrote, most were still sheriffs bound to the soil or house servants. Moving up the American ladder was far more difficult than black Americans at home. Novelist Son E. Griggs wrote of the torment and frustrations of a southern black man who would have made an excellent salesman, clerk, cashier, telegraph operator, conductor. But the color of his skin shut the door so tight that he could not even peep in. In the South, where 90% of black Americans still live, not only were most white-collar jobs off limits, but an entire legal system was being constructed to isolate black Americans from the mainstream of public life. Trains, trolleys, hotels, schools were being segregated by a growing and intricate body of law. Casual contact between the races was in some ways more limited than it had been in the days of slavery. Possibilities for advancement were being cut off in every direction. In Mississippi, the state legislature was proposing to divide school funds in proportion to the real estate taxes paid in the white and black districts, all but guaranteeing that the black school system would remain penniless. T. Thomas Fortune, the black newspaper publisher in New York City, argued it would be vastly cheaper to build schoolhouses than jails. Du Bois wrote, "Race antagonism can only be stopped by intelligence. It is dangerous to wait. It is foolish to hesitate. Let the nation immediately give generous aid to Southern common school education." But Du Bois was not hopeful. The most sensible suggestions were rejected with such contempt and even hatred that retaining one's equilibrium was proving difficult. After receiving a Harvard Ph.D., Du Bois had hoped to carve out a quiet academic life for himself and for his wife Nina, but was now at the center of a profound American controversy. How to move a nation hip deep in racism to fulfill its most basic promise: justice for all. He was being urged to join Booker T. Washington, the most powerful black leader in the country, at Tuskegee Institute, but was uncertain about the effectiveness of Booker T's philosophy. Washington was urging his followers to pull themselves up by their bootstraps and practice patience. He would not publicly press for voting rights or social equality. He put his faith in vocational training, convinced that in the long run, only economic success would lead to acceptance. The Reverend J.A. Jones in Chattanooga, Tennessee, concurred. When the Negro opens a first-class drugstore just across the street from the white man's and every other foreign business, prejudice would take wings. In time, the marketplace would resolve the race problem, but everything in Du Bois's own experience argued against such reasoning. Just a year before he'd been witness to a ghastly incident. A mob of 2,000 people had assembled in Atlanta for the lynching of Sam Howells, accused of killing his employer in an argument over money. After Howells was tortured and burned at the stake, newspapers reported men, women, and children fighting over pieces of his charred flesh. Du Bois had seen Sam Howells' blackened knuckle bones on display in the local drugstore. Historian David Lewis writes, "Numbed by the horror, Du Bois turned away from his work. Ferdinand Montefiore recognized that one could not be a calm, cool, and detached social scientist while the Negroes were lynched, murdered, and starved." Please rate, comment, and subscribe down below. And if you're on TikTok, please like and follow me. And I'm selling my books if you want any. So if you want to take a look at them, they're on my eBay and Thriftbook accounts. So just message me just comment me down below. Just message me in the comments down below if you want my account name and whatnot for eBay and for Thriftbooks. Okay, bye.